So Flow is a story that actually doesn't have any dialogue, not any like discernible human dialogue that we can follow. What do you think that gives to the story?
I think it makes these characters non-human, but at the same time remind us viewers that we are humans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle movies, books, podcasts, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me today, after a long time away.
How long has it been? 2 years?
It's been like 2 years. It's been a year. I was thinking like a year and a half in my mind, but like year and a half to 2 years, is Wanson, the host of Cinematic Motif, back from your travels in Europe, back from your time in France.
Hello, Amanda, and hello, dear listeners. I've been back for about 6 months, so...
Yeah, we just haven't seen each other.
Yeah. I'm always on weekends and mornings, which is the time when there's no one in the office.
No one is in the office. Our office is an afternoon, evening office for sure.
But I'm a morning person, so...
Yeah, I think that is in many ways a better way to be. But Wanson, is there anything that you would like to say to introduce yourself before we get into the movie that you brought today?
Yes, I am a 23-year-old student. I'm actually 22. I'm actually 22.
Oh my God.
I'm a 22-year-old student and also the host of the cinema show, Cinematic Motif here at RTI, plus a language learning show called Tâi-gí Made Easy. It's a show teaching Tâi-gí, which is the Taiwanese local language. It was the show of Qing-en, but now I'm taking over the show to continue that journey with everyone else. So if you're interested in these two shows, do go and listen to the shows on RTI's website and shortwave everywhere.
Highly recommend both of these shows. Tâi-gí Made Easy, so fun and so interesting. And then Cinematic Motif, if you love what we do here, you're going to love it over there. Just lots of in-depth talk with a special focus on film. Can't recommend it enough. And speaking of films, what film have you brought today? I must say you brought one I'm really excited about.
The movie that I'm bringing us today, it's called Flow, which is a movie that, Amanda, you said that you've watched the movie, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so anyway.
I watched it on a plane.
Right. I watched it in a cinema, actually. So
I think that's the best way.
Right. So Flow, let me briefly introduce the story. This is a 2024 animated film, and it's basically a dystopian film talking about the adventure of a cat and a bunch of animals in the world where there is no human. It's a post-human and post-apocalyptic world. And what's really interesting is that this film is a Latvian production.
Oh.
Right. So I think this is the first time I watched a film from Latvia. Look, I still have trouble.
I've never known. Yeah.
I have trouble pronouncing the name of the country.
Yeah.
Right. And it is still the most viewed film in Latvian theaters in history.
Yeah.
And at the Oscars last year, it won the Best Animated Feature and also nominated for the Best International Feature Film. So it's a huge, huge film.
Yes. I love this movie. I would really recommend, even though I saw it in a plane, I would really recommend watching it somewhere where you can kind of get an immersive experience because like we said, there's a lot to this film, but a lot of the storytelling is done, how do I want to say this? Is done visually, is what I can say. It's done visually and in an auditory way because, again, there's no dialogue, there's no humans. And even though we see animals that are doing things which are human in nature, for example, using a boat, paddling the boat, and like fishing or collecting objects, they still communicate through animal means of communication. And so it's really best, I think, imbibed, best absorbed, where you can kind of just like sit and focus on it.
Sit in silence in the dark room and watching the screen.
With full sound and kind of just like really focus on it without any other distractions. I think would be the best way to like kind of take it in.
Especially the purring sound of the animals. The cat in this movie is just so soothing. Can I use the word soothing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It really, I will say, it really got to me, really got to my heart. Like right up within the first like 4 minutes, I was like bought in.
Any animal lovers would love this movie.
Yes. love, and also watch out because it's only about animals. So all the good and bad just happens to the animals.
Yeah.
So, but Wanson, let's give some more context to this. Do you think you can give us a summary of Flow?
Yeah, so it all starts in the world where it starts with a cat sitting on the boat. And this boat is almost like a Noah's Ark because, it's a world without human, and it's a world full of, it's basically an ocean where when the sea, it drowns everything.
I think Noah's Ark is a really good way to describe it because the very first few minutes, and I mean very small part of the movie, we see it not flooded. And then we're introduced to, you see the flooding of the world, and it feels like a biblical event. Yeah. It's very sudden, and we don't get any explanation.
Yeah, you don't get an explanation. You don't know where the humans are. Actually, you can see some of the details of the past life experience of humans, like in the house of the cat.
Yeah. There's, evidence humans were there, but I don't know. Who knows?
So the whole thing is that the cat keeps dreaming about somewhere else. There is a calling for the cat, telling the cat to go to somewhere else. So the cat embarks on this journey on the boat, and the cat meets a lot of different animals on the journey, including some dogs that are really, really naughty, and also a secretary bird who is very, very smart and almost like the smartest, the smartest animal of them all.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you see that the secretary bird dies at some point, kind of like going into the heaven.
Yeah.
And then all the other animals seeing a new kingdom, a new world. I don't know how to describe that. It's still very...
It's very, of all the films that we do here, this one is kind of maybe the most artsy because you can kind of interpret it how you want it.
Right. Yeah, so basically that is the plot of the story. It's very simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they get dropped off in a post-flood world and kind of have to decide how they're gonna go do that. Yeah.
Because suddenly the flood disappears.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And again, no answers.
No
because
explanations.
Also, how would they know? How would the cat and the bird and there's a capybara, the dogs, how would they know where the flood comes from?
Right.
So, yeah, the story on its surface is very simple. Wanson, how were you introduced to this story? And then from there, we'll go out into discussing the meaning that we've gotten out of this grand little adventure.
Yeah. So first of all, this movie means something to me because this is the first movie I watched when I went to France. So it was the first movie that I went to watch in the cinema in the French theater. So the reason why I chose this movie was really, really simple. So my French reading and listening was not that good.
Yes.
At least I was not confident with that. So
yes.
I thought I can choose a film without any dialogue.
Right. As we said, the best news is you don't need to speak French to follow the movie.
Right. So I walked to the nearest theater near my house, my apartment, and then I watched that movie. And I was like, oh, this is so good.
Yeah.
It's full of different symbols and a lot of explanations that I can do with this movie, especially as a literature student who has read Bibles. The Bible. So, that is my encounter with the story.
Well, then let's get into that. What made this so meaningful to you? And, what were kind of those symbols or motifs that you really saw repeated? Motifs. I should have started with that
the
for
motif.
your cinematic motifs. Did you see repeated throughout this film? Because I do think it's really interesting that you are comparing it to, right off the bat, Noah's Ark and the Bible, because I don't know that I did that overtly, but as soon as you said that, I was like, wow. Actually, I do see a lot of similarities.
Yeah, so basically, first of all, let's talk about since you mentioned the Ark, I can talk about this. So I think it's drawing inspiration from the biblical story because it depicts the world where there's a great flood and it wipe out human remains. So that is exactly the situation in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
And the protagonist, a black cat, it seems to be the only surviving... The survivor who has a mission to do something, a mission to lead all these animals into a new world, which is exactly what happened in the plot, actually. So it is using that structure of Noah's Ark as a frame for the story. But ultimately, I don't think it is a Noah Ark story.
Yeah.
Because I think it's about cooperation, collaboration of different animals, in this world, in a world where there's a huge crisis.
Yeah.
So my explanation is that, so first of all, all the characters in this movie, these animals, they are not humanized, right?
Right.
So when we think about animations films all the time, for example,
the anthropomorphization.
Yes, they're always right, and they always look like human.
For example, Zootopia.
Yeah,
where, like,
Zootopia, which
it's
is
all about animals.
in theaters right now.
It should be good. I haven't seen it yet, but it should be good. But all of these animals displaying, while they have like some of their animal characteristics, a very humanized lifestyle.
Yeah, so these animals have human gestures and human languages. But in this movie, as we talked about the purring sound, these animals only speak their animal languages.
Yeah.
And they don't look like humans.
No.
So the thing is here. So in a post-human world, with these animals that don't look like humans at all, they are the most human beings in this movie.
Yeah.
For example, they try to help each other. They do teamwork, and they try to find out the solutions to survive in this a world where there's a flood. And they get onto the boat together, and they gradually learn to help each other. And maybe this is exactly the thing that we humans are missing right now in this world, where there's so many chaos, there's so many wars, and we don't understand this virtue. We should team up and help each other.
Yeah.
So the characters that are non-human are the most human.
Yeah,
that's
it
an interesting
really
thing.
deeply humanizes them. I think you have a really good point there, because like a lot of times when we think about animals in animated movies, the anthropomorphizing of these animals allows us to use them as a metaphor for like different types of people. And while I think that that's still kind of done in this case, because we do see them do like human behaviors for the better and for the worse, like cooperation, like running a boat, or even like hoarding items. There's like a lemur. I think they're lemurs, right?
Yeah, lemurs.
Where we see that they're like really attracted to like physical objects, and they really place a lot of value in those.
And speaking of the lemurs, what's interesting is that the lemurs, it was really attracted to the mirror, right?
Yeah,
the mirror.
Yeah.
So there is a philosophical concept. It's talking about the differences between human and animals. I really forgot which philosopher was.
Right.
Anyway, so some philosophers said that the difference between human and animal is that human has self-conscious.
Yeah.
When the lemurs was looking at that mirror and looking into himself and then getting to know himself in his own face, isn't he trying to develop that self-consciousness?
Right, that self actualization. Like, I know that that's me.
But that even if the lemur got the self-consciousness, he's not getting into someone like the bad human that we have in the society right now.
Right. And I think that's also like, what was I saying? But that's a really good point too, though, because like we do still see like those actions in this movie for better and for worse, because we also see like you could also interpret that as like self-absorbed or like selfishness, because while the lemur is looking at this mirror, he's not helping everybody else do things on the boat. He's prioritizing his things and keeping them safe and making sure nobody else can see them. And we also see animal societies. Like when we meet the secretary bird, he's with a whole flock of secretary birds, and they clearly have their own code of conduct.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think, as you mentioned, the sort of distancing of these animals by like making sure that a lot of the behaviors they have is rooted in things that we find familiar with these animals, right? So the first character on the boat is a capybara, and he spends a lot of time sleeping and just kind of sitting around. And so we can already associate like he's still an animal because they love water. He probably was in a boat, right? The bird is the one who ends up doing a lot of steering because the bird can see. Yeah. And they have these really powerful legs. And so I think that, as you said, sort of makes us focus on the actions and like what we can learn from like the behaviors of these characters and what we can see. And I also really agree like the idea of teamwork, because you see a lot of different types of like, you see a lot of like threats to kind of like the group cohesion and the different ways that the animals react, incorporate, or reach out in the face of these threats to like group safety or to these ideas of like altruism, which the secretary bird in question who comes on the boat is very altruistic, but the other secretary bird flocks feel very in-group only.
Yeah, they don't
So-
care about the other animals, right?
Right.
The other secretary bus.
Yeah. Or like the cats, the dogs, everything else. It's very focused on we take care of ourselves and we don't take care of anybody else. We don't bother anybody else, but we don't help anybody else.
So when we are putting that back into the Noah's Ark story, isn't that the god, kind of like the god picking some of the animals that has better traits to be alive and to continue on this journey of developing in this whole, on the earth actually.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of like similarities between them, definitely. And also when we see like the quote unquote bad or naughty animals, they seem to encounter more hardships through this flood than this like group that has come together to do better, including those dogs who they take their own boat. The naughty dogs in the very beginning take their own boat, but they end up stranded by themselves. And they kind of just like ruin everything they touch, it seems. But let's take this a little bit broader. What meaning do you think that others could find in the story of Flow? And is it related to what we're already talking about now, or is it something different?
I think the others could definitely find meaning because it's talking about how human works with each other in the case of crisis. And that is exactly what's happening in the world all the time, with the world getting more and more chaotic all the time. So I think that's how people can find meaning in this story. And the other aspect is the technical aspect. I think in recent years, there is a rise of independent films at the Oscars. So you get to see all these diverse films at the Oscars because the international voters are increasing in the Academy, right? So this movie, I think it's a miracle. So it's made with a software called Blender.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I don't know if you have ever learned about this software.
My grandfather used Blender.
Oh, really? I used Blender too when I was in elementary school. Although it was like, I didn't make any good works.
Very
anyway.
difficult, but it is something that anybody can use.
It's open source. It's actually free.
Okay.
So using a free 3D software and you make the films into Oscars, that is something quite astonishing
You
for the whole
word miracle.
world.
That's pretty, like, very impressive.
Yeah. And there's also a big thing. So the budget of this movie is $3.70 million US, less than 1/50th of Inside Out.
Oh.
Yeah, 1/50th? Right.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah,
only the
I was
2%.
just like waiting for you to like put that in context for
Right,
me.
so 2% of the budget of the film Inside Out, which is also a contender at the Oscars that year.
Yeah.
So you don't need big budget, you just need good story. And even you don't need a great technique to make an animation film that gone so huge all over the world. So that is another big thing, a trend that we can observe with this movie.
Yeah. I also think, like, I do think that it is meaningful that it got so much attention as an animated film because with the exception of a few studios, and by that I usually mean Disney and Studio Ghibli, I feel like animated films typically get relegated to children's media or sort of dismissed as being unserious and excluded from big award shows and other things like that. So it made me really proud that, like, yes, it won in the animated feature, but even being at the Oscars at all, I feel like was a really big moment and showing that, like, yeah, these can tell really moving, powerful stories, and it doesn't have to be by Disney or Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli.
Right. They make great stories.
Right.
But other people are making great stories too. Like, you just need to look around and see, like you said, these independent animators, independent filmmakers around the world are really doing amazing stuff.
And I also agree with you, Amanda. You mentioned that animated features doesn't have to be for children's only. This is apparently not a movie for children.
Yeah.
I mean, like, children may find it interesting,
It's
but
not to say kids can't watch it,
Yeah,
but
kids
they weren't
can
the
watch it.
intended audience of
Right.
the story.
I
It's
mean-
really where that comes from.
yeah, grown-ups would also find meanings in this movie, actually.
You should watch it, is what we're saying. Watch the movie Flow if you haven't seen it.
Right.
So, unfortunately, we're out of time. But Wanson, if you could give this story a one-phrase subtitle of your very own, what would it be?
I would say humanity regained.
I got goosebumps. Oh my God. Wanson, thank you so much for coming on my show. This was so much fun.
Thanks for having me.
I loved being able to relive my memories of all of these little creatures and the music and Secretary Bird. Oh, yeah, that's how I feel. Oh, man. Well, and thank you to all of you out there for joining us here on Radio Taiwan International. This has been Tales of Our Time. I was your host, Amanda Stevens, with today's guest,
Wanson.
and please check out his show. But in the meantime, today we were talking about Flow, Humanity Regained. A Tale of Our Time. We'll see you next time.